Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our worship service. May the grace and peace of God be with you all. Forget what you think you know. Expect miracles. For with God, everything is possible. Please join me with the call to worship. Call to the Lord who hears our prayers. Sing to the Lord who delights in our songs. Wait for the Lord, the source of our hope. Worship the Lord, who is worthy of our praise. Let us pray. God of wondrous love, your miracles always catches us by surprise. When our time of blessing comes, may we laugh with Sarah and dance with Abraham. When our bodies are touched by your healing grace, may we bow before your throne of glory. Come to us now as we gather to worship, that we might be touched by your Spirit and made whole by your grace. Amen.
Good morning. It's good to be with you this Sunday morning and to share the scriptures for this Sunday. Our first reading today is from Psalm 116, verses 1 and 2, and then 12 through 19. It is a psalm of faith and thanksgiving. I love the Lord because he has heard my voice and my supplications, because he inclined his ear to me. Therefore I will call on him as long as I live. What shall I return to the Lord for all his bounty to me? I will lift up the cup of salvation and call on the name of the Lord. I will pay my vows to the Lord in the presence of all the people. Precious in the sight of the Lord is the death of one of his faithful ones. O Lord, I am your servant. I am your servant, the child of your serving girl. You loose my bonds. I will offer to you a thanksgiving sacrifice and call on the name of the Lord. I will pay my vows to the Lord in the presence of all his people, in the courts of the house of the Lord, in your midst, O Jerusalem. Praise the Lord. Our gospel lesson this morning is taken from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 9, verse 35 through chapter 10, verse 8. It is the account that Matthew gives of Jesus sending the apostles out to do their work on behalf of the kingdom. Then Jesus went about all the cities and villages, teaching in their synagogues and proclaiming the good news of the kingdom and curing every disease and sickness. When he saw the crowds, he had compassion on them, because they were harassed and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. Then he said to his disciples, "The harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Therefore ask the Lord of the harvest to send out laborers into his harvest." Then Jesus summoned his 12 disciples and gave them authority over unclean spirits, to cast them out, and to cure every disease and sickness. These are the names of the 12 apostles. First, Simon, also known as Peter, and his brother Andrew. James, the son of Zebedee, and his brother John. Philip and Bartholomew, Thomas and Matthew, the tax collector. James, the son of Alphaeus, and Thaddeus. Simon the Canaanian, and Judas Iscariot, the one who betrayed him. These 12 Jesus sent out with the following instructions: "Go nowhere among the Gentiles, and enter into no town of the Samaritans, but go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. As you go, proclaim the good news. The kingdom of heaven has come near. Cure the sick, raise the dead, cleanse the lepers, cast out demons. You receive without payment, give without payment." The word of the Lord. Praise be to you, O Christ.
In today's gospel, Matthew describes Jesus' ministry. He's traveling from town to town, seeing the condition many people were in everywhere he goes. He teaches in the synagogues. Matthew says that Jesus healed every disease and infirmity. Matthew describes Jesus as having great compassion for people. The meaning of the word compassion is to suffer with. Compassion. When we feel compassion towards someone, we sense the pain and hardship they are experiencing. It's like we're putting ourselves in their shoes. Their trial becomes our trial. Their pain becomes our pain. Their suffering becomes our suffering. We are moved to do something about it. Compassion is not just feeling the pain of others, but doing something about it. With compassion, you can't be a bystander. It requires action. As Jesus gazed out at the people gathered around him, Matthew says that he was filled with compassion. Their pain, their loneliness, their grief, it all became his. He saw just how harassed and helpless they were. His response to the plight was loving compassion. I wonder, what would Jesus encounter if he were to travel across America today, going to town, city to city, state to state? What would he see? What would be his reaction to all that is going on in our nation today, in our world? Would Jesus be filled with compassion? What do you think? Will he be a bystander like many of us in the comfort of our homes? Or like many of us are in the comfort of our homes? Or a doer? I am pretty sure he will be standing right next to those that hurt, with those lifting up their voices to be heard. I bet he will be someone in front of the line, protesting for justice, for peace, for equality. I think that's what Jesus would do. What do you think? He was full of compassion, but the kind of compassion that took action. He felt the pain of others. Matthew says that when he saw the crowds, he had compassion for them because they were harassed and helpless. And he began to proclaim the good news of hope in curing every disease and every sickness. Compassion moves you to do something. Compassion is an active word. Compassion forms the backbone of Jesus' mission. It was compassion what moved him. It was compassion, the compassion that he had, that he took on human flesh. And compassion prompted him to pour himself out to death on a cross. He saw our condition. He rescued us from eternal death and gave us a new life, a new way for eternity. As disciples of Christ, the church is compelled to be of the same mind as Christ and continue to spread out throughout every generation the same compassion Jesus had for all of us. Compassion has been the calling of Christ's church. We need to stand up with those who are hurting. Matthew goes on to say that Jesus not only healed the sick, but liberated the oppressed. And don't you think that's what's going on right now in our nation? For years, many people have suffered the oppression of racism. For many years, many people have suffered injustice. Jesus gave his disciples authority to cast out anything that bounds and hurts people. And guess what? We were given a mission. We have work to do. That same authority that Jesus gave to his disciples was given to us. He said, I am sending you out like sheep in the midst of wolves. So be wise as serpents and innocent as doves. The church exists for Christ's sake. As the church, Christ's compassion becomes our chief endeavor. Just as he was moved by compassion and acted from that compassion, we have to do the same. We have to be doers of justice and peace, not be bystanders. I know the church has done great things in helping those that hurt, providing resources for those that are struggling to make it on a day's means. But we also need to stand up and be the voice for justice and peace. We currently find ourselves right in the middle of pain. When compassion calls to us, it calls us to respond with compassion. And each person responds according to their ability, like medical workers who tirelessly treat patients, researchers working towards treatments and vaccines, governors of each state working to do whatever is in their power to keep the public safe, volunteers reaching out to feed the hungry and help the needy. But we all have been called to respond to justice, peace, and equality. Imagine if we all did what Jesus demanded us to do, to love our neighbors, to go out and serve and treat everyone as you would like them to treat you. Imagine all the great things that we were able to do. Or imagine all the great things that the church will be able to do when we share that love, when we lift up our voices for those that don't have a voice, when we stand up when someone is not being treated right. Let us not be bystanders and do what Jesus did. Be active in compassion. Be doers of compassion. Let us stand up and join all those voices and join the people who are hurting and be disciples of Jesus Christ the way it was meant to be. For us, not just to pass on the love of bread, but also to continue to speak up for justice. And again, with God in our hearts, all things are possible. Please join me with the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
Jesus
as people of hope and disciples of holy love, let us continue to support our ministry with joy and gladness. Before my benediction, I want to invite, or I have an announcement to say. Next Sunday, we will be reopening our church building. We will have our worship service here. So I want to invite all of you to come and join us for that great day. I know we are going to have a great Sunday because we all miss each other. We want to be together and worship God together here in this building. So I'm inviting all of you to come, invite a friend, and let us have a great time of worship. And just a reminder too, or to let you know, we will take all the safety steps required by CDC and Wisconsin Council of Churches. Again, don't forget your mask. If you don't have one, we will provide one for you. And now receive the benediction. May you continue to be at peace, but be prepared to laugh with Sarah. Have hope and be ready for unexpected miracles. Share love for the one who loves us.